Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.
Good morning everyone. Yes, so today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 3rd August 2021. Let us see which are the important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. Yes, so mains related articles and prelims related, we have segregated them according to relevance to our syllabus. First of all, we will take overview of all these articles. First, on page number 6, editorial page, the cusp. The context of this article, it is talking about recent increase in COVID-19 infections, and maybe we are looking at the start of third wave when we are witnessing this trend of increase in the COVID-19 infections in some of the states like Kerala, Maharashtra, MP and Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. Okay, yes, so the context of the first article, it is talking about recent increase in number of COVID-19 cases in some of the states and the concerns raised by the central government as well as ICMR in increase in, let's say, positivity rate in recent times in some of the districts. So the context is that one, and the way forward is also mentioned in the article. So as a follow-up to COVID-19, we have to look into these articles. Then the hacking of Indian democracy on page number 7, op-ed page. The context of this article, again it is talking about the Pegasus spyware being used as a part of state surveillance, how it affects the democratic credentials of India, human rights and civic liberties in India and Indian people. So the context of article is this one, from Polity and Governance GS2 paper. This is been continuously discussed, Pegasus issue. So we have to have follow up on that particular issue daily basis. Next, amid protest, Lok Sabha passes bill to amend Insurance Act. So the disinvestment and the privatization of the public sector insurance units or enterprises is continuously going on, as announced in this year budgets also, finance minister. So accordingly, this particular amendment is being passed in Lok Sabha parliament. So it talks about reducing the government stake in some of the insurance public sector undertakings below 51%. Okay, so we will see which are the amendments here. Then preventive detention only to forestall public disorder. A very good important judgment by Supreme Court. It is talking about the preventive detention and how it affects different fundamental rights of the people that are enshrined in our Indian Constitution and how it should be used cautiously by law enforcement agencies. Okay, so we will take input from this particular judgment from GS2 paper, polity part. Then moving on, Supreme Court questions states on cases under section 66A of IT Act 2000. So yes, this is being heard by the Supreme Court. There are many cases in different states under section 66A which was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in 2015. Okay, so this raises the concern that those sections declared unconstitutional, still the police are invoking those sections of different statutes. So we have to understand and know about which was this judgment also. Okay, now moving on to prelims related developments. Prime Minister Modi launches digital payment solution e-RUPI. Okay, so basics about this we have to understand from the governance perspective. This is important for prelims as well as mains examination. Yes, no agreement yet on Gogra hot springs. Recently there was 12th Corps Commander level talks between India and China along the border. So though there was progress in those talks, but the final decision about disengagement on these two important hotspots, we can say Gogra and hot springs in the Ladakh LAC region, is not taken. The final decision is not yet taken. Okay, so as a follow-up to LAC stand-up and disengagement process that is going on continuously, we need to be aware about those developments. Finally, practice prelims MCQs on these current affairs daily basis. First article, the cusp. Basically the editorial on page number 6, the context of this article is that the weekly average numbers of COVID-19 infections recently are hovering around 40,000 marks. They are not declining. Okay, and there is, let's say, direction of, or we can say increasing trend of to the 41,000. So this shows that there are chances in future we may experience in near future the third wave of COVID-19 pandemic, and that's why the central government along with ICMR has issued some of the guidelines to these states wherein the increase in positivity rate has been seen. So the concern is Kerala, where around daily 20,000 cases have been reported. Okay, more than 20,000 cases have been reported, and not only in Kerala but some of the other states like Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh. So these states, Manipur also in northeast, these states are showing a weekly increase in number of cases. Okay, so this is also cause of concern, and ultimately in future if it is not arrested, that may increase in number of cases throughout India. So overall positivity rate may increase. Now why it is important? Recently ICMR had released the national level we can say survey, sero survey, and its finding had said that around 40 crore people in India are still not having antibodies. That means they are vulnerable to infections by COVID-19 virus and its variants. So until and unless these people along with the other people they need to be vaccinated, we can experience increase in number of cases in future, in near future. Okay, ICMR also expressed the concern that 46 districts in these states are showing more than 10% of positivity, along with other 50 districts are between 5 to 10%. So these districts, when they are having more than 10% positivity, on an average at present India's average is about 5%. Okay, so this should not be there. This shows increasing trend, and therefore the central government has asked these districts where the positivity rate is around 10% to take certain measures, the curbs on the gathering, social distancing measures, and if needed lockdowns in those districts. Okay, so when we prevent increase in number of cases in these hotspots, it helps in preventing further infections spreading throughout the country. Okay, we need to learn the lessons from the second wave, first wave. So in this manner. So fourth national serological survey findings, nearly 40 crore Indians likely lacked antibodies. So in this manner we should understand as a way forward to this particular situation. At present, the present situation is, we can say, around 15 crore people in India 100% vaccinated, and around 30 crore received one dose. Okay, and the central government had assured that all Indians will be fully vaccinated by the year end, but that would require around 100 million doses daily given to the people, but at present the average is around, we can say, 30 to 40 or 50 million, and that changes continuously according to the availability of the vaccines. Okay, so we have to also understand that the vaccination at the faster rate and the availability of the vaccines, that should be also increased. The states which are saying that they do not have the number of vaccines, so the availability of the vaccines, at the same time vaccination on the ground by the states, both rates should be increased. Okay, so this should be the way forward here. Along with that, you should also talk about always behavioral aspect. The government should continuously disseminate the information, persuade people through IEC campaign, information, education, communication campaign regarding following the COVID appropriate behavior. COVID appropriate behavior like social distancing, universal masking, hand hygiene. Okay, so all these aspects should be mentioned whenever we are writing the way forward. Fine. Any question here regarding this topic? Okay, moving on. The hacking of Indian democracy. Yes, the context is Pegasus, its impact on human rights and civil liberties. We should understand that why we are focusing always on civil liberties. Yes, we need to uphold the civil liberties, because our forefathers, the freedom struggle that we had, we got the independence from the Britishers, we focused on having the civil liberties. They were not given by the British government to Indian people, and we fought for those civil liberties. And after independence, if the government is not giving us those civil liberties which are mentioned in the constitution, then we are actually moving back in our democratic development. Okay, so in this manner we should understand the context. The Pegasus spyware being used to infringe on the privacy of the people. Liberty of the people to express their views is to some extent curbed through the use of such state surveillance. So in the name of fighting terrorism, we can understand that the state surveillance is used to, let's say, in the name of security of the country or public disorder. So ensuring law and order situation, all these aspects we can understand, but in the name of, let's say, fighting terrorism, democracy cannot be undermined. So very good statement. We can expect such kind of statement even as a question statement also, or you can write in your answer also. So when we are talking about democracy, we should focus on civil liberties, fundamental rights and human rights. Okay, the government has the constitutional duty to protect fundamental and human rights of its citizens irrespective of who they are. So who they are means even if they are criminals, they have certain fundamental rights in our constitution. So Article 21, Article 19, Article 22, they relate to these criminals which are, let's say, having certain rights also. So we should also understand that it is the responsibility and duty of the state to protect these rights. And we should also understand that this is extremely poor governance. Why it is saying that extremely poor governance? Because our intelligence agencies, okay, be it IB, RAW, CBI, these intelligence agencies, law enforcement agencies, they have, even if the government is using such kind of spyware, these intelligence agencies should have been advising the government in a free and fair manner about the, let's say, impact of such kind of spyware, state surveillance on the democratic credentials of the country. Now the writer is mentioning very good important points here in the support of protecting these rights and the international covenants which are mentioned. First, Article 12 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So we can understand that here it talks about ensuring right to privacy. Right to privacy. So very important, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. India is also the member and signatory of this declaration. At the same time, Article 14 of International Covenant on Civil and Political Right, it also talks about protecting right to privacy of the people. Okay, and those, let's say, find that there is infringement on their privacy, they can have the legal recourse. Okay, they have right to have legal recourse to protect their right to privacy, and India is also signatory to this covenant. Okay, at the same time, if we are talking about Indian constitutional provisions, Article 51 of Indian Constitution talks about respecting international treaties, agreements. So these treaties which have been signed by the government, we need to respect them. So this is new aspect up till now we have not discussed, okay, regarding this spyware issue. So you should mention in your notes about these international covenants, and already we gave the let's say context of this Puttaswamy judgment whenever we talk about right to privacy. Okay, so the Supreme Court in Puttaswamy judgment in 2017 clearly mentioned that right to privacy is very important to live a dignified life. Though we can understand that it is not absolute right, there are some reasonable restrictions. However, those reasonable restrictions should be in just and proportionate manner. At the same time, they should have the legal backing. Okay, so in this manner, we should discuss all the issues related to this Pegasus and the impact on democratic credentials of the country. Okay, civil rights, human rights. Yes, any question? Look at the question that can be asked here. The right to privacy is not absolute and its curtailment can take place only under the law which is just, reasonable and fair and subject to constitutional safeguards. Analyze with reference to concerns raised by recent Pegasus spyware issue. Now this statement is given in, we can say, double comma. Basically it is talking or directly statement of the Supreme Court in Puttaswamy judgment. This is the statement in the judgment of Supreme Court in the Puttaswamy judgment. So this can be directly asked as a statement in your examination. You should be aware about this. Okay. Now if you have look at this Puttaswamy judgment online, Google it just, this is very long judgment, very lengthy judgment, and very let's say many philosophical aspects are covered in that judgment. Right to privacy, how it relates to dignity of the human beings and all these things, right to life, okay, liberty. So if you have extra time, you can refer to that judgment and try to read that. Okay. Any question? Yes. Moving on. Amid protest, Lok Sabha passes bill to amend Insurance Act. Okay, let us understand what this bill talks about. Name of the bill: General Insurance Business Nationalization Amendment Bill 2021. Basically, this Act of 1971, this is being amended here. Okay, what are these amendments? First of all, omitting the provision of section 10B of the Act so as to remove the clause that central government must hold at least 51% of the shareholding. So that means the government wants to reduce its stakeholdership in those public sector units and privatize them. Okay, that means now when its stakeholdership goes below 51%, that means the management of the company will be in the hands of private sector completely. Okay. Second amendment, it talks about inserting new section 24B providing for cessation of the application of the Act to such specified insurer on and from the date on which the central government ceases to have control over it. Okay, so that means when the government will have less than 51% of the stakeholdership, from that date there will be application of this particular amendment provision. Now, to insert the new section 31A providing for liability of the director of the specified insurer who is not whole-time director liable for any acts of omission and commission committed with his knowledge and consent. So in liability of the director is we can say here clearly mentioned in this article or section 31A about its acts of omission and commission with his knowledge and consent. So if any like say action is taken without his knowledge and consent, then he is not liable now. Okay. Now why these amendments are brought by the government? Already the finance minister had mentioned in this year's budget about reducing its stakeholdership in these insurance companies, PSUs. The bill stated that certain amendments had become necessary to provide for greater private partnership in the public sector insurance companies, enhance the penetration of insurance sector, provide social protection by securing interest of the policyholders better and contribute faster pace of economic growth. So basically at present the penetration of insurance sector is very poor, and to improve we can say that increase the penetration of the insurance sector, the government wants to increase the private participation and thereby investment by the private sector in the insurance sector. Okay, and therefore it will help in increasing. Now whenever we talk about entry of private sector, we should be aware that first thing, it will bring the capital, that is investment. Second thing, you should understand it will bring the technology. Third thing, you should understand that it will bring the very good management practices. Basically all of three are lacking in the government. That's why the privatization is important. Okay, capital, technology, at the same time expertise. Okay, the management system, efficient management. So all these will be brought by the private sector participation in insurance sector. Fine? Okay.
Sir, I have another one.
Yes, tell me.
By passing of that bills, we are unable to give the guarantee of data testing of that particular companies.
By
From the
bypassing
data testing
data theft.
from the private management.
Okay, so that data protection is completely a different matter. Okay, data protection bill is still pending, that is not finalized by the government. Okay, so once that is finalized, then we can understand that whatever the data the private sector is having, the protection of that data even by the government, so that remains a separate matter. Okay, at present basically what we are focusing through this amendment, we are focusing on the insurance sector, how to increase the penetration of insurance sector, widening its coverage in India. Okay, so insurance sector, not only we are talking about health insurance, all type of insurance. Okay, so this public sector insurance companies, their let's say reach is not increasing at present, and the government is basically having its large stakeholdership in these companies, making it inefficient, loss of let's say taxpayers money basically. So making it efficient through private sector participation. When a private sector enters, that means efficiency. It will bring efficiency, it will bring profit, and ultimately it will increase the reach of the insurance sector to the common people. Okay, so in this manner we should understand. Yes.
The safety of the public money to Sahara department.
Sorry.
Sahara to give me the money, right? Sahara case.
Sahara, yes, Sahara scam you are saying, yes.
Yes, I took away the money, and if the complete our money goes to private hands, there is a safety concern also regarding the money also, right? So we need
Yes,
to question
sure.
that after or not?
Yes, sure, yes. Private sector failures are witnessed in recent times. Okay, the governance, let's say failures, but for that purpose what we need to focus is on regulation. Okay, so focus should be on regulation rather than the government being the stakeholder. What government can do is effective regulation of the private sector, insurance sector, right? So through that, such kind of corporate failures can be let's say reduced. Okay. Yes, any other question? Okay. So next article, it is talking about one Supreme Court judgment. Recently it is talking about preventive detention and how to reduce the misuse, arbitrary use of preventive detention by the state or law enforcement agencies. Very good statements, like preventive detention is necessary evil only to prevent public disorder. The court must ensure that the facts brought before it directly and inevitably lead to harm, danger and alarm or feeling of insecurity among the general public or any section thereof at large. We should understand that why it is saying that necessary evil, preventive detention, because it is, we can say, mentioned in Article 22 of Indian Constitution. Preventive detention, punitive detention. So the to ensure the law and order, public order in the country, security of the country, security of the state. Okay, so protecting life of the people at large. For that purpose, preventive detention provision, we can understand it is colonial era provision. It is colonial era provision, but still it is important at present in India. However, its scope of misuse, arbitrary use needs to be reduced. So why it is saying that preventing public disorder at present, even if any law and order situation is created, the preventive detention provision is being used. There is difference between law and order and public disorder. Okay, law and order situation is, suppose there is a normal mishap happened between 2-3 people, there is fight broken on the road, that is law and order situation. The violence is going on. Okay, but that is not affecting the or leading to public disorder. So that means the ordinary provisions can handle that law and order situation. There is no need to invoke the preventive detention stringent provisions under this preventive detention law. Okay, so the Supreme Court has highlighted that if it is simple law and order situation and not harming the public at large, then preventive detention should not be invoked. Rather, the ordinary law provisions should be invoked there. Okay, so only when the public disorder, that means the public at large their life may get harmed, so then only the preventive detention should be invoked. States should not arbitrarily resort to preventive detention to deal with all and sundry law and order problems, which could be dealt by the ordinary law of the situation. A very good important, let's say, constitutional provisions mentioned here. Preventive detention must fall within the four corners of Article 21, which deals with the due process of law, and Article 22, safeguarding against arbitrary arrest and detention, and the statute in the question, that is preventive detention law it is talking. Okay, so basically Article 22 talks about preventive detention as well as punitive detention. Preventive detention is relating to detention of the person before committing any crime, and the punitive detention generally relates to the detention by the courts, magistrates after committing we can say the crime. Fine, so there is difference. Yes, in Laxmikant it is given in detail which are the safeguards provided in that Article 22 to those people who are under preventive and punitive detention. They also enjoy some fundamental rights. Okay, so yes, regarding that you should be aware about the Supreme Court judgment, recent Supreme Court judgment. Now, Supreme Court questions states on the cases under 66A. So you should be aware about this Shreya Singhal judgment of 2015 regarding declaration of this section 66A of Indian IT Act 2000. Okay, so this section 66A provided for, let's say, those who are let's say posting the derogatory social media post, they could be arrested under this provision at that time, and this was, let's say, vague provisions, ambiguous provisions, and therefore was arbitrarily invoked, misused by the state authorities, and that's why this was declared unconstitutional. But still the police are invoking this section in different states, and that's why now the Supreme Court has asked the states to provide their opinion on this. Okay, so the background mentioned here about how this provision was included in the act and then declared unconstitutional. Okay, so you can see here in 2008 IT amendment bill was passed. It provided for this section. Then the PIL filed by Shreya Singhal, this was law student Shreya Singhal, challenging the constitutionality of section 66A of act, and in 2015 this was declared unconstitutional. But now you can see here the case count, 681 cases were registered under this section. At the same time 799 of the cases are still pending and active about this. Okay, so lower judiciary, the magistrate and the police, both are unaware about this judgment. This is the sorry state regarding the judicial pronouncements. The higher judiciary that is giving from time to time, the police are not made aware of this. This remains the responsibility of the police as well as state governments, making them aware about these judicial pronouncements. Fine, so you should be aware about the Shreya Singhal case. Already UPSC has asked in mains examination immediately after this particular judgment that year, in 2015 or 16 I guess, exactly I am not remembering, but UPSC has asked about 66A, section 66A of IT Act. Fine, okay. Now, Prime Minister Modi launched digital payment solution e-RUPI. Now, this context of this article, PM launched this particular e-RUPI, contactless, cashless instrument for digital payment. Now, basics about this: cashless, contactless. Basically, it is similar to what you can say the gift vouchers. Generally, you know, we receive the gift vouchers whenever we visit any let's say mall or any, let's say, particular shop which wants their customers to come back to their shops again for shopping, like 500 200 rupees gift shops vouchers are given. Basically, in a similar manner, these gift vouchers can be redeemed only in their stores, right? So basically, in the same manner, these are the QR code SMS string based e-vouchers which is delivered to the mobile of the beneficiaries. Now, these can be used by the beneficiaries to we can say redeem those benefits only at specific accepting centers without any credit or debit card or mobile app or internet banking. So this is being implemented by or for both government as well as corporate sector. Suppose for the government wants to implement any welfare scheme, so the benefits under the welfare schemes will be delivered through that e-voucher to the specific beneficiary identified through the mobile number or Aadhaar card linked to that mobile number, right? So the corporate sector, suppose the corporate sector wants to provide some benefits under corporate social responsibility, CSR provisions of Companies Act 2013. Right, so if those CSR provisions are to be implemented and the corporate sector wants to provide some benefits, then it can issue such e-vouchers to the beneficiaries. Okay, how this can be issued? So the corporate sector or the government department can approach the partner banks, which can be both private as well as public sector banks, with the details of specific persons or the beneficiaries for the purpose of which payment have to be made. The beneficiaries will be identified using their mobile numbers, and voucher allocated by the bank to the service provider in the name of given person would only be delivered to that person. It will be only be delivered to that person. So basically, it is the intention here is to reduce the pilferage, that is corruption, wastage. That beneficiary will not be using that e-voucher for any other purpose. So instead of cash transfers to the beneficiary account, okay, so such kind of e-vouchers will be helpful for using the benefits for the intended purpose. Okay, so this is how the new platform e-RUPI is being let's say developed. This is being developed by the National Payment Corporation of India. Okay, so like it has also developed BHIM platform, BHIM UPI. So the same platform company has developed this particular e-RUPI. Fine. So this information is important for prelims examination. Now, no agreement yet on Gogra hot springs as a follow-up to this 12th round of Corps Commander meeting. So both countries agreed that they are making developments, progress on this disengagement. However, they have not yet reached on the agreement for disengagement at these two spots of Gogra and hot springs. So you should be having follow-up on the disengagement process that is going on between India and China along LAC in Ladakh sector. What should be answer to this question? B for Bombay.
Sorry, D, sir.
D, all of them.
D, sir.
Delhi.
Yes, sir. D for D.
Okay, let us see what should be answer to this question. We are talking about e-RUPI platform and we have to find the correct statements. Yes, it is cashless and contactless instrument for digital payment. This is correct statement. Cashless bhi hai and then it is contactless also. Then it is developed by National Payment Corporation of India. This is also correct statement. Now, third statement, look at the framing. It is only intended for the implementation of government welfare scheme. Is it so? It can be used by the private sector also, right? Corporates, basically we are talking about the private sector also, right? So the only here is incorrect. Actually both government as well as private sector It is intended for both, right? So this is incorrect statement, and that's why the answer should be 1 and 2 only, B. So some of you have got this correct. Fine. Now, yes.
I heard present they are going to be using only present government and public sector only, sir. Present now.
No, it is clearly mentioned that both corporates as well as government are going to take benefits of this e-RUPI platform. Okay. At present, even if they are saying that, but in future surely that will be used by the government. Okay, so the what you can say, the platform is going to be used by both.
It means I heard present they are going to be using government sector direct benefit transfers and some semi-government sector.
Prime Minister has clearly mentioned in his speech that it can be used by the private sector also. So, okay, it is going to be used by both. Fine. Any other question? Okay then. Fine. Thank you. We will meet tomorrow at the same time.
Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.